somebody's asking him like, "What are you gonna do?" And he's like, "I'm gonna have light eventually." I don't know. It's kind of like it's it's not my priority right now.
Not a huge priority. I'm not going to worry about where it comes from. Hello, everybody. My name is Tracy, and here with me is Eli Slack. I pointed in the wrong direction, but what we're going to get started on today is our study in the loosest sense of the term, of the Christian Bible. I have with me the King James Version, 1611, of the Bible. And Eli, I believe you're listening to the King James Version as well.
Listening to the King James, yeah. I have it in front of me on my screen, but for consuming it, I'm listening to it.
Gotcha.
It is so hard to listen to the Bible while you work out. I gotta say that.
I would imagine so. Not a lot of motivation.
Nothing
Not
is
something to
less
pump you up.
motivating.
For those of you who subscribed to our channel after my appearance on Truth Wanted, I think there were 9 of you. Thank you. At the time of this recording, I said that we had started recording already, and that was true. Unfortunately, we had a major issue with our audio, and we had to do it all over again. So this is actually the day after I showed up on Truth Wanted. We're re-recording this. So now, Eli, the both of us have read through Genesis. I'm going to try and get this discussion at least through Gen 1, if we can, in this episode. Give me your first gripe, because I know there's many, but give me your first gripe about Genesis.
So it starts right away. The first couple of lines. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth was without form and void. And to me, what that means is that in the beginning, God created heaven and nothing. But then, and we may come back to it even, but this is an act of doing nothing. And now there's different interpretations of, and I in actually the past year have listened to a couple of lecturers online, like experts in ancient Israel and the Old Testament that have discussed things. And this could be a sort of because of a grammatical feature in the Hebrew word. It doesn't actually say in the beginning. It just says something like in beginning. So it could be just an idiom for once upon a time. So saying hey, at when things began, God created heaven and earth. And then the next line is going on to say this is how it started. So that's a possible interpretation, but it's a strange way to start.
So what I'm reading here, because I have a KJV study Bible, and of course we have their explanation for some of these things, that this passage, chapter 1, verse 2, without form and void, what the original creation was at the beginning, not what it became. So I guess the way that they're interpreting it, the people who wrote this study Bible, is that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, meaning before he made it, it was without form and void, which obviously, a thing isn't anything before it's made.
Yeah.
So that's
I made
great.
some bread and it was dough.
There you go. And the earth was without form and void. But then they don't go on after that to say, and he made it so. So that's right. Why I don't really buy their explanation for this obvious oversight. But let's move on. And God said, let there be light. There was light, and he made the light, and he made day and night by separating the light and the dark. So obviously, there's a demarcation of day and night right now. That was one of the first things he did, was he made the earth. Then he was like, all right, day and night cycle. There we go. And then this is where we get into sort of the weirdness. Get into is a strong term. Go ahead.
But I have more about this because he, once there's light, now he has to separate light from darkness when like
Mhm.
darkness is just the absence of light. I don't understand why those two things, like this is doing work that's already been done
I'd have to
or that
agree.
is
If
already
you
done.
have a thing that you can identify as light, it is already separated from the other thing that is identified as darkness.
Right.
Why would you have to separate two things that are different? Unless there's some sort of mixed together light and dark combination. There was gray, and
Right.
God separated
Like
it
it,
into its component
that
parts.
wasn't the case. Like lightness and darkness didn't exist separately until God decided for it to be that way. But that was immediately after he created light. So I don't.
Yeah, I don't. I doesn't seem to track any sort of sense there. And then after he made light and then separated it from the darkness, which if you've made it, you've already, we've been over this. After he made light and he made the earth that was without form and void, whatever, all this nonsense poetic speak, uh, then that was a day. He did that in a day,
Yeah.
just knocked it out.
And I want to come, and it says the evening and the morning was the first. I want to come back to that because that already doesn't make any sense because of what happens later.
Gotcha. We will. But then I have an issue with this talk of the firmament. Now, you had a lot to say on the firmament, but I'm gonna say my piece on it, and then I'm gonna let you take off.
Yeah.
The firmament, if we read down here, you talk about what it was. It says it was dividing the waters which were above from the waters which were below. It might be some sort of talk about, rain, explanation. I don't know. Because these people didn't understand the water cycle and evaporation and all these things. And God called the firmament heaven. So in the beginning, God created heaven. And then he made a thing that he called heaven. I'm going to say this multiple times in this video, but I get really annoyed by them saying that he did a thing and then later saying he did it again.
And then
Like,
repeating it.
there's no reason to do it more than once. Once you've made heaven, you don't need to go make heaven again. Unless we're discovering something interesting here and there's two heavens. There might be. I don't know. But go ahead, say your gripes about the firmament, because I know you have some stuff to say.
Yeah. So this firmamentum is what the Latin translation was for the Hebrew word. I think it's rachia. It's transliterated if it were spelled with English words, or English letters, which it's not. It would be raqia. But it means to expand or to stretch or to hammer out. So like if someone's hammering out a piece of metal and it expands, that's rachia. Okay, so that the noun that comes from that verb or from the same root as that verb is that which God created and called heaven. It is an expanse. But as a result of like when you hammer something out or when you stretch something out, when you make it when you give it more space in one dimension, you have to give it less space in another dimension. So as a result, it thins out as it stretches. And so when they translated the KJV, they took firmamentum, which is describing this thin film that separates the heavens from the earth. The other thing, and this was a point made by a gentleman named Robert D. Miller. He was Robert D. Miller II. He was a professor of Old Testament at the Catholic University of America from 2008 until, as far as I can tell, his passing in 2023. And as he put it in one of the lectures of his that I saw, the firmament doesn't separate the heavens or the waters above from the earth. It separates the waters above from the waters below. So if the firmament is anything, it is the universe in which we live. This expanse, these heavens that God created on this second day, or what day are we on? I think we're on the second.
We're on day 2.
Day 2. So this expanse is what this rakia is what this is talking about. So firmamentum is a bad translation.
But there we go. And that was all he did on the second day, was make this thing, firmament, make this expanse, make this firmament, however you want to refer to it. That was all he did. Then we go on. You ready to go on to day 3?
Yeah, day 3. This is when the earth first appears, or the land of the earth. He gathers all the waters unto one place and lets the dry land appear. He calls the dry land earth, and sees that it's good. But that's not all. He goes on to bring forth the grass and the herbs with the seeds and the fruit, or the trees yielding fruit, and all of that takes place on the third day. Now, this is actually a really long day too, as far as like the text goes, because it repeats itself pretty significantly, and it's been a little bit repetitive up to this point, but this is the most significant one so far. And this is just a feature of ancient Hebrew poetry. They didn't have like rhymes or like iambic pentameter and stuff like that. They just like, they would take a concept and they would say it one way and then say it again in basically the same way and just change it a little bit. So in this case, he said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb and trees, yada, yada, yada. And the earth brought forth grass and herb and trees, yada, yada, yada. And it says it basically in the same way because it's just a poetic signature to the story, kind of.
Gotcha. I'm just annoyed because I didn't like reading the same paragraph twice. It was annoying.
You just don't appreciate poetry.
I appreciate poetry when it's good. I've never read a poem that was just the same paragraph 2 times. You just bring forth grass, herb, and trees, and they were all in themselves and after their kind, and God saw that it was good. Just he made all the plants. That's what I understand to have happened on the third day, is all the plants happened, which is cool. Keep in mind that he hasn't made the sun yet.
Yeah.
So these plants, although they derive their nutrition from the sun, and their energy from the sun rather, it's not there, but there's light. Do you know where that light's coming from?
Yeah.
It's coming from something. I don't know what. Maybe light just comes out of nothing. Who knows?
I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's like just the concept of light exists.
I get, just the idea of light exists in the mind of God. But that was
like he's like, I'll get there.
He was like, I'll he made that out of nothing too. Yeah. He wasn't like,
somebody's asking him like, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to have light eventually. I don't know. It's kind of like, it's not my priority right now.
Not a huge priority. I'm not going to worry about where it comes from. Yeah. I'm just going to make it. Gotcha. And that was the third day.
Yeah.
And now here's the fourth day. This is the day we've been waiting for. This is the day we've been waiting for. This is when we get the sun.
Yeah.
He makes lights. He does that thing you were talking about with the poetry where they just say the same thing over and over and over again. Next one of those
like
overs.
Just to be like, this would have been as clear to an ancient Israelite that this was poetry as us hearing roses are red, violets are blue. Like it would have been as obvious to them that this is just poetic metaphor as it would be to us when we hear that. Which I think is a very potent point.
Okay. But he goes and he makes 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. Even though these here, I can only infer, but he's talking about the sun and moon. Though we do understand that the moon does not create any light. It just reflects light. But these people, back in this time,
right,
in, these Iron Age primitives,
right,
they did not understand that. They thought that the moon made light.
Right, and like the third millennium BC.
Yeah, whenever this was going down.
Yeah.
And God set them in the firmament, the expanse of heaven, I guess, to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night. So it's really interesting here. We're going to talk more about the day and the night thing because it's kind of irritating me.
Yeah.
There was a day and a night, and they were separated by light and darkness. But then he makes a light to make the light, to separate the day and the light and the dark. And I'm just like, a whole bunch of doing the same job twice here, buddy.
Yeah. I said we were going to come back to it. I want to come back to that.
We will.
This is it. I don't understand how there have been 3 evenings and mornings so far. And the things that we're measuring when we consider evening and morning have just now begun to exist. So either this is clearly their attempt to explain the origin of the universe, not really knowing anything about the world, and they just got it wrong, or it is just an example of ancient Hebrew storytelling in which being factually correct was not an important, it was not an important factor of their storytelling. They were designed to tell us, share a message, in which case they didn't care about the details and they got it wrong for that reason. So either way, I think it shows we're not supposed to take this literally, and if you're taking it literally, you're missing the point and getting it wrong. That's what I think.
I'd have to agree with you. There's no way you can take this literally and think that it is indicative of the world. Not in the modern day anyway, with all that we understand. But we can go on. But that was you have anything more to say about the the fourth day? That's also when the stars showed up,
Yeah, he made the stars also.
Just side note, got the stars there.
Yeah. Now, and this is so, and now this could just be another feature of the poetic nature, because it says, "Let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." So signs, seasons, days, and years. That's just the sun and the moon. That's not the stars.
It would be for seasons and signs. So seasons are. Yes, we do measure them off of the sun and the moon, but we also measure seasons based off of the different star, the position of the stars in the sky.
Yeah, for sure. I am not sure if ancient Israelites would have known that.
I don't know about all that. We were talking about,
Possibly.
Everybody had all their different zodiacs and whatnot.
Yeah, because they could see the actual Milky Way. They would have watched that move across the sky throughout the year. So yeah, they knew.
They would have. They see way more. They would have seen way more stars than you or I see on an average day.
I want to see that sky so bad.
Come out to my family's farm. You can see the Milky Way on a clear night.
Amazing. Yes, love it.
It's pretty beautiful.
I can't imagine.
Oh, it's gorgeous, man. We'll have to go out and see it. Let's. You want to go to the fifth day?
Yeah.
On the fifth day,
living things.
Yeah, he brought forth abundantly, the moving creature that hath life. And this is, again, I'm guessing, it's got to be that poetic thing you were talking about. But it just kind of annoys me because I then have to read the same sentence over and over again. But it talks about, and this is something I wanted to bring up. Repeatedly through here, and it's very inconsistent. Sometimes God will say a thing, and that is sufficient to make it happen. And other times, God will say a thing and then have to go do it. So it's not very clear here. They say here, and God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven." Now, if this were day one, I guess maybe God's getting tired. I don't know. He said, and God said there be, and right here, Gen 1:3, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Not, and God said, "Let there be light," and God made light.
God made light, yeah.
So it's just an inconsistency that I'm seeing here where maybe he's getting tired. I don't know. We're now just saying it isn't enough to get the job done.
He's burning up his spell slots.
He might be burning up his spell slots, running low on mana. I don't know what's going on, but apparently just saying it isn't enough to make creatures because he has to say it. And then, and God created great whales and all this other, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth." Now go ahead. Talk about death.
Just to touch on what you mentioned there, Dr. Miller does talk about how some of the parts of creation God delegates. Some of them he does himself, and some of them he delegates, like to the earth to bring forth life, right? So it escapes me now what the literary or the theological function of that is, but there is some purpose to that, I believe, and I think by our next recording I should have a better answer to that. But
Yeah.
it does, I do have the question here though, because as it is told, before the fall of man, before original sin, death did not exist.
Mhm.
And God gives clear instructions not only here but also later on to man to be fruitful and multiply. God should have known that the resources on earth were finite. Now, either the idea here is that resources on earth were not finite before sin, which
I don't know how you got that.
I
In a
mean, yeah,
finite
that
space, there's infinite resources. That seems kind
right.
of crazy.
Well, I mean, and I was gonna say like that's a stretch, but we're also talking about,
Magic.
we're talking about magic here. So,
Magic's not allowed except when God does it, or
right.
Jesus, or
But
Moses.
I still like whatever the answer is. Like this is a question that I have: is if there was no death, how was fruitful multiplicity not going to be problematic eventually, and how would an omnipotent God not have known that? I just don't think Genesis is describing an omnipotent God, at least not one that is real.
So I want to dig in more onto this death thing, because what you're bringing up here is a good point. But then the knee jerk response to that would be, what's the problem? No one's gonna die. And I say, well, yeah, but they'll get hungry, and then they'll be in pain from the hunger.
They'll need
Because
somewhere to.
without the pain from hunger, why would you eat?
Yeah.
So there must have been pain from hunger in order for a person, a thing, a creature to eat.
Yeah.
So also, little fact here: plants are alive.
Yeah.
And when you eat them, they die.
They die.
So they were dead. Death was obviously in the world if plants were being eaten. But they go on to say that even the obligate carnivores were all herbivorous at the time, and it's just a weird phrasing of things, because right here it says right up. Hang on, where is this? And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, in 21 there. And then later said, and God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing. So apparently cattle and creeping things are not living things that moveth. I'm going to have to take a look at those cattle next time I go see them.
I wonder if this is supposed to be like a distinction between marine life and land life.
See, maybe, but it doesn't say that. That would be an additional inference on top of the text. If just a plain face reading, and God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life. The moving creature, the two criteria.
I mean, that's
moving creature that have life.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah, it definitely as a surface read, it seems like the sixth day, the day in which he created land animals, is just a repetition of the fifth day. Yeah, I mean, because he does both on the same day, right?
Oh no, sorry. I think this is a misread on my part, because you're right. On the fifth day, it looks like I guess that would be the distinction. On the fifth day, he made the sea creatures and flying creatures, even though they don't specify that it's only the sea creatures he makes. He just says, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life. Doesn't say only the creatures that live in the water, but whatever. So
Yeah.
that was a mistake on my part. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth after his kind." And it was
Yeah.
so. And this
Maybe
is another thing.
after.
Sorry, I got worked up. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
So this is another thing. They oscillated back because I heard what you were saying about the delegation, where when he delegates it, maybe his word isn't, he needs to, help it. But then right here, and God said, "Let the earth bring forth all blah, 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 blah." And it was so. Just the saying, it was enough.
The earth did it.
But then he made it. So not only did he delegate it and it happened, but he also had to go do it. It's just
I don't have an answer for that one.
It's
strange. I do wonder though. My thought was, I wonder if after his kind, I wonder if that his there is referring to the earth, because I don't know. I don't know what that his is referring to.
I would read that as an it's.
Yeah, I would say it's there.
And but I didn't. The earth after its kind. But you got to remember, this is a very chauvinistic book.
Exactly. Like
all we're concerned about is the animals with penises.
Yeah. And the earth's with penises.
And the earth has a penis, apparently.
So,
but that was the 5th day, and on the 6th day, he made land animals and people. Both of them.
Right. Which points to people being animals.
Yes, it does. But I'm not going to give him that. But he says, "Let us make man in our image and after our likeness. Let them have dominion over it all." Then he created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. That's just, saying the same thing fucking 5 times.
It's, describing reality because they turned it into a poem.
Yeah, that's how you know it's real. And it says here, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth." What's wrong with the earth? Why isn't it plenished already?
Yeah.
Why does it need to be replenished?
It's plenished. I just plenished it.
Yeah, you just plenished it, dude. Does your plenishment only last 6 days? What's going on here? And have dominion over all the animals. And God said, "Behold, I give you all the trees, and this is what you're going to eat. And also animals, this is also what you're going to eat. Even those of you whose systems require meat, or you'll die, we're going to make you eat this." And he saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. That's Gen 1. Go ahead. Say more things about it.
Well, no, I just had a thought. I wonder, like, did like bacteria, did viral life exist like by day 6?
That's an interesting question because, well, here's my question. Do viruses and bacteria breathe? Because it's only the living creature that
hath life.
So yeah, it wouldn't be breath. I don't know why I thought of the breath of life. It's because he blew it in his nose. Yeah. But that's why I thought of that. But that only happened to man. Viruses aren't life technically, right?
There are, for a thing to be considered alive, it meets a certain number of criteria. Viruses are in a sort of fluctuative state where, like, they can meet all of them under the right circumstances, but inherently they don't, but they have the equipment to. They just need like a facilitator.
All right.
Reproductive mechanisms mostly.
Well, that's very interesting. I'm not a biologist, but I play one on TV. That was Genesis chapter 1. Thank you for everybody who joined us. I hope that we said mostly things that weren't brain dead. And if you'll join us in our next video, we will be going over the contradictory story in Genesis chapter 2.
I've been saying omnipotent when I mean omniscient.